First contact in the void. The salvage ship, Fortune's Gambit, drifted silently through the debris field, its sensors probing the darkness for anything of value. Zara Harrison stood at the viewport, her dark eyes scanning the field of twisted metal and frozen fragments that had once been someone's dream of reaching the stars. Her weathered hands traced patterns on the cold glass as she calculated trajectories and optimal approach vectors. "Another bust, Zara?" asked her ship's AI, designation Nova, its voice carrying a hint of genuine curiosity that still surprised her even after 3 years together. "Don't be so quick to judge, Nova," Zara replied, tucking a loose strand of copper-colored hair behind her ear. "Sometimes the real treasures are hidden in plain sight." She adjusted her salvage suit's magnetic boots, the familiar click-whir of the mechanisms grounding her in the artificial gravity. The debris field stretched for kilometers, the remnants of what appeared to be a recent battle. Most salvage operators would have passed it by, too fresh, too likely to draw unwanted attention from authorities or worse. But Zara had built her reputation on finding value where others saw only risk. Her sensors pinged, drawing her attention to an unusual energy signature. "Nova, analyze that reading. Bearing 047, about 3 clicks out." "Analysis indicates an active power source," Nova reported. "Configuration unknown. Not matching any registered human designs." Zara's pulse quickened. Unknown tech meant either incredible profit or incredible danger, often both. She was about to order a closer scan when a flash of movement caught her eye. Something large was moving through the debris field, its surface seeming to bend light around it. "Stealth tech," she whispered. "High-end stuff." The object's camouflage flickered, revealing glimpses of an elegant hull design unlike anything in human space. The vessel was wounded, venting plasma in an erratic pattern that spoke of severe damage. "Zara," Nova's voice carried an urgent edge. "I'm detecting multiple approaching vessels at the edge of sensor range. Energy signatures suggest heavy armament." "Hunting party," Zara murmured. She should leave. Every instinct honed by years of surviving in deep space told her to fire up the engines and vanish into the black. But something held her back. The wounded ship's movements showed intelligence, purpose, desperation. "Nova, open a narrow-beam communication channel. Let's see who we're dealing with." Static filled the channel before resolving into a series of musical tones that made her skin prickle. Then, in heavily accented Standard English, "This is Scout Commander Kreldar of the Solarian Expeditionary Force. If you are receiving this, I request sanctuary." Zara's breath caught. The Solarians were known to humans only through distant observations and encrypted transmissions. No direct contact had ever been confirmed. Their technology was said to be centuries ahead of humanity's. "This is Zara Harrison of the independent salvage vessel Fortune's Gambit," she replied, mind racing through possibilities. "What kind of trouble are you in, Commander?" "The kind that will reshape the galaxy," came the response, followed by a burst of warning signals from Nova. The pursuing ships had entered weapons range. Zara made her decision. "Nova, execute docking procedure Delta 7. Commander, if you can match our vector, I have a repair bay with your name on it." She activated the ship's defense screens, knowing they wouldn't last long against military-grade weapons. "The pursuers will destroy you," Kreldar warned, even as his ship began maneuvering toward hers. "Maybe," Zara agreed, already plotting an escape route through the debris field. "But I've got a feeling that whatever you're carrying is worth the risk." Besides, she added with a grim smile, humans have a bad habit of succeeding when we're told something's impossible. As the wounded alien vessel limped toward her ship, Zara Harrison knew she was about to either make history or become a cautionary tale. The pursuing ships were closing fast, their weapons charging. But in that moment, watching the graceful lines of the Solarian scout ship emerge from its flickering camouflage, she felt something she hadn't experienced in years, the thrill of discovery, of being part of something larger than herself. "Nova," she commanded, prepare for emergency jump sequence. Let's show our new friend what human ingenuity looks like under pressure. The story of humanity's first official contact with the Solarians was about to begin, written in plasma fire and stardust against the endless black of space. And Zara Harrison, salvage specialist turned reluctant diplomat, was about to learn that some discoveries were worth any risk. Trust forged in stardust. The Fortune's gambit shuddered as another energy blast grazed its shields. Zara's fingers danced across the control panels, guiding her ship through a maze of debris while Nova calculated jump coordinates. Behind them, the pursuing vessels launched another barrage of weapons fire. Jump coordinates locked, Nova announced. But we have a problem. The Solarian vessel's quantum wake is interfering with our drive calibration. In the repair bay, Commander Kreldhar's ship leaked silvery plasma, its otherworldly hull pulsing with damaged power conduits. The alien commander's voice crackled through the comm, "My ship's defensive matrix is failing. The Shadowed Ones cannot be allowed to capture what I carry." Zara gritted her teeth, making a split-second decision. "Nova, redirect power from the cargo holds to the shields." "Commander, I'm going to try something incredibly stupid." She triggered the emergency docking clamps, physically linking their vessels. "What are you doing?" Kreldhar demanded. "Improvising," Zara replied, activating her ship's experimental quantum slipstream drive. "Nova, initiate emergency jump sequence Delta 9. "Zara," Nova's voice carried genuine concern, "combining our drive signature with damaged Solarian tech has a 78% chance of catastrophic failure. And a 100% chance of death if we stay here," Zara countered. "Execute jump." Space twisted around them as the quantum slipstream engaged. The pursuing ship's weapons fire dissipated harmlessly against the dimensional shift. For a moment, reality itself seemed to fold, carrying both vessels through a corridor of swirling energy. They emerged in an unmapped sector, the Fortune's Gambit's engine sputtering but intact. Zara released a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. "Status report. All systems functional, though the slipstream drive will require extensive recalibration," Nova reported. "No sign of pursuit. Commander Kreldhar's vessel has sustained additional damage but remains structurally sound." Zara activated the repair bay's environmental controls and grabbed her toolkit. "Keep scanning for any followers. I'm going to see what our guest has gotten us into." The repair bay's atmosphere cycled as Zara approached the Solarian vessel. Up close, its design was even more remarkable. The hull seemed to flow like liquid metal, organic curves blending seamlessly with crystalline technology. The ship's entry hatch irised open, revealing Commander Kreldhar. The Solarian stood nearly 2 meters tall, with iridescent scaled skin and multiple pairs of arms that moved with unsettling grace. But it was their eyes that caught Zara's attention, compound orbs that shifted color like oil on water. "You took an enormous risk," Kreldhar said, their translator converting the musical language into clipped English. "Most humans would have left us to our fate." "Most humans aren't salvage specialists," Zara replied, scanning the damaged hull with her diagnostic tools. "We tend to see value where others see danger. Speaking of which, want to tell me what was worth bringing a kill squad down on our heads?" Kreldhar's scales rippled in what might have been amusement or concern. "What I carry could either preserve or destroy both our species. The Shadowed Ones seek to trigger a war between humans and Solarians. They believe conflict will force technological advancement. And you disagree? I've studied your species, Zara Harrison. Humans achieve their greatest advances not through conflict, but through cooperation and innovation." Kreldhar removed a small crystalline device from their ship. "This contains proof of their conspiracy, but also something far more dangerous, coordinates to an ancient weapon cache left by those we call the Precursors." Zara whistled softly. "And I'm guessing these Shadowed Ones want to use it against both our peoples." "Precisely. Which is why I must reach the Solarian High Council before," Kreldhar's words cut off as warning klaxons blared. Multiple quantum signatures detected, Nova announced. Configuration matches the pursuing vessels. Impossible, Zara muttered. They couldn't have tracked us through that jump. Unless, Kreldhar's voice was grim, there is a traitor within the High Council itself. Zara looked at the damaged Solarian ship, then at her own vessel's depleted systems. They were in no shape for another fight. But as she caught Kreldhar's shifting gaze, she felt a familiar spark of inspiration. Nova, how long until the slipstream drive recharges? Minimum of 3 hours, Zara. A smile curved her lips. Then we'll have to get creative. Commander, how do you feel about helping me modify some salvage tech? I've got an idea that might just keep us alive long enough to expose this conspiracy. Kreldhar's scales shifted to a deep blue. You continue to surprise me, human. What did you have in mind? As Zara outlined her plan, she realized that this unlikely partnership might represent more than just survival. It was a chance to prove that humanity's greatest strength wasn't its weapons or technology, but its ability to adapt, to trust, and to find solutions where none seemed possible. The next few hours would test that theory to its limits, as human ingenuity prepared to face off against advanced alien technology in a game of cat and mouse among the stars. Shadows of the Ancient Ones. That's either brilliant or insane, Nova commented as Zara finished connecting the last modified salvage drone to Kreldhar's damaged stealth systems. In my experience, the best plans are usually both, Zara replied, wiping grease from her hands. She'd spent the last 2 hours combining human salvage technology with Solarian quantum mechanics in ways that probably violated several laws of physics. Kreldhar moved with fluid grace around the makeshift workshop they'd created in the repair bay, their multiple arms simultaneously adjusting crystalline components and analyzing data streams. The quantum resonance is stable, but these modifications go against all established theories of stealth technology. That's exactly why they might work, Zara said, grinning. Your people's tech is incredible, but it follows predictable patterns. The Shadowed Ones will be looking for Solarian signatures. Instead, we're going to give them something they've never seen before. The pursuing vessels were closing in, their advanced sensors sweeping the sector. Zara's plan was audacious, using salvage drones modified with pieces of Kreldhar's stealth system to create a web of conflicting quantum signatures. It wouldn't fool the hunters for long, but it might buy them enough time to reach the coordinates contained in Kreldhar's crystal. Incoming transmission, Nova announced suddenly. Origin point, uncertain. A holographic display materialized in the center of the repair bay, showing a figure that made Kreldhar's scales ripple with recognition. The Solarian was older than Kreldhar, their scales darker and marked with ceremonial patterns that seemed to shift in the light. High Counselor Venare, Kreldhar said, their voice carrying a mix of respect and wariness. My child, the counselor's translated voice was grave. You have caused quite a disturbance. The Shadowed Ones claim you have stolen vital military secrets. They claim many things, Kreldhar replied carefully. Tell me, Honored One, how did you locate us so quickly? A pause. There are protocols for tracking rogue operatives. Interesting, Zara interrupted, earning a shocked look from both Solarians. Because we just completed a quantum slipstream jump that should have been impossible to track. Unless, of course, someone had access to both Solarian and human tracking technologies. The High Counselor's attention shifted to Zara, their compound eyes narrowing. You dare involve a human in this matter, Kreldhar? Our laws regarding interference are clear. Our laws also speak of honor, Kreldhar countered. Of protecting life, regardless of its origin. The weapon cache you seek would violate everything our people stand for. Sometimes preservation requires sacrifice, Venare said softly. The humans advance too quickly, too unpredictably. The precursor weapons would allow us to guide their development, ensure they do not become a threat. Zara laughed, drawing startled looks from both aliens. You really don't understand us at all, do you? Humanity doesn't advance because of threats or control. We advance because we're curious, because we see possibilities where others see limitations. She activated the modified drone network. Dozens of quantum signatures bloomed across local space, each one a unique combination of human and Solarian technology. The pursuing ship sensors would be overwhelmed, unable to distinguish real signatures from false ones. Like this, she continued. Your tech follows elegant, predictable patterns. Ours? We strap random parts together and hope for the best. And somehow, it works. The High Counselor's image flickered as sensor interference built up. You cannot hide forever. The cache will be found. We're not hiding, Kreldar said, their scales shifting to a fierce crimson. We're proving a point. The precursor weapons aren't meant to be used, they're meant to be understood. And who better to help understand them than a species that specializes in finding new approaches to old problems? Warning signals flashed as the pursuing ships began firing, their weapons splitting the void. But Zara's drone network was already working, creating phantom targets and false readings that sent their shots wide. Nova, Zara called out, execute jump sequence Alpha 3. Let's show our friends what happens when you combine human chaos theory with Solarian quantum mechanics. The Fortune's Gambit vanished into slipstream space, leaving behind a sensor grid that would keep their hunters chasing shadows for hours. But as they traveled toward the coordinates of the ancient cache, Zara knew they had achieved something more significant than just an escape. They had demonstrated why humanity's seemingly chaotic approach to technology could be its greatest strength. Where the Solarians saw disorder, humans saw possibilities. Where they sought control, humans embraced uncertainty. You know, Kreldar observed as they watched the swirling energies of slipstream space, I begin to understand why the High Council fears your species. You don't just break rules, you prove the rules were wrong to begin with. Zara smiled, already planning their next move. That's not fear you're seeing, Commander. It's potential. Now, let's go find those ancient weapons before the Shadowed Ones figure out our trick. Something tells me we're going to need every advantage we can get. The real challenge lay ahead, not just finding the precursor cache, but proving that the greatest weapons weren't the ones that destroyed, but the ones that brought understanding. And perhaps, in the process, they would show both their peoples a new way forward. Breaking point. The precursor station hung in space like a frozen lightning bolt, its crystalline structure defying conventional geometry. Zara stood at the Fortune's Gambit's viewport, trying to make sense of the ancient construct's impossible angles and shifting surfaces. Beautiful, Kreldar breathed, their scales rippling with iridescent patterns of awe. Our oldest records speak of precursor architecture, but to see it. And terrifying, Zara added, noting how her ship's sensors seemed to slide off certain sections of the station. Nova, any sign of pursuit? Negative, but our sensor range is limited. The station appears to be generating some form of reality distortion field. They had reached the coordinates hidden in Kreldar's crystal, only to find something that made the conspiracy of the Shadowed Ones seem almost trivial by comparison. This wasn't just a weapons cache, it was a testament to a civilization that had mastered the fundamental laws of spacetime itself. The High Council's records were incomplete, Kreldar said, studying streams of data on their neural interface. This facility, it's not just a warehouse. It's a research station. The weapons were a byproduct, not the goal. Zara frowned, her engineer's mind racing. What were they researching? Before Kreldar could answer, Nova's warning systems flared to life. Multiple quantum signatures detected. Shadowed One's vessels emerging from slipstream space. The void lit up with weapon fire as 3 sleek Solarian warships materialized around the station. Their hulls were midnight black, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. On the command frequency, a familiar voice echoed. Impressive persistence, High Counselor Venare said, their translated voice carrying an edge of genuine admiration. But this ends now. The precursor legacy must be controlled, shepherded by those who understand its importance. Zara's hands flew across her control panels, bringing the Fortune's Gambit's modest weapons online. You still don't get it, do you? The precursors didn't leave this here to be controlled. They left it to be discovered, to be understood. By primitives who barely understand quantum mechanics. Venare scoffed. Your species is too young, too chaotic. Exactly, Kreldar interrupted, their scales flashing with sudden insight. Zara, the station's design, it doesn't follow Solarian principles because it's not meant to. The precursors weren't trying to create perfect order. They were studying chaos itself. Warning shots from the Shadowed One's ships lit up space around them. But Zara was barely paying attention, her mind racing through implications. The station's impossible geometry, the way it seemed to defy conventional physics. Nova, she called out, run a comparison between the station's structure and our quantum slipstream calculations. Specifically the chaos patterns we use to modify the salvage drones. A moment passed as the AI processed the request. Match found. The station's architecture appears to be a physical manifestation of quantum chaos theory. Of course, Kreldar whispered. The precursors weren't building weapons, they were trying to understand the fundamental nature of reality itself. And they encoded that understanding into the station's very structure. Another barrage from the Shadowed Ones rocked the Fortune's Gambit. A fascinating theory, Venare's voice dripped with sarcasm. But it changes nothing. Surrender now, or be destroyed. Zara's lips curved into a fierce smile. Actually, it changes everything. Nova, prepare to execute the most insane plan we've ever attempted. More insane than combining salvaged drones with Solarian stealth tech, the AI asked. Much more, Zara confirmed, her fingers dancing across controls. Commander, I need you to help me modify our slipstream drive one more time. We're going to use the station itself as a quantum amplifier. Kreldar's scales shifted rapidly through patterns of shock and realization. You want to create a controlled chaos cascade. Use the station's structure to amplify and redirect our slipstream field. And give the Shadowed Ones exactly what they fear most, proof that chaos and order aren't opposites, but two sides of the same coin. Zara's grin widened. Want to help me break some fundamental laws of physics? The Solarian commander's answering patterns glowed with fierce joy. Perhaps that is why the precursors left this discovery for your species to make. You don't see chaos as something to be feared or controlled. We see it as an opportunity, Zara finished, already beginning the drive modifications. Nova, plot an approach vector that mirrors the station's geometric patterns. Let's show the High Council why humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. Oh. Nova asked as weapon fire continued to light up the void around them. And what would that strength be? Zara looked at the impossible station, at the advancing Shadowed One's ships, and at her unlikely alien ally. Our ability to embrace the unknown, to find harmony in discord, and to turn our greatest fears into our greatest discoveries. The next few moments would either prove her right or end in spectacular failure. But as the Fortune's Gambit began its approach run, Zara felt a certainty that went beyond logic or reason. The precursors hadn't left this station as a weapon to be used or a secret to be kept. They had left it as a test. And humanity's chaotic, innovative, impossible approach to the universe might be exactly what was needed to pass it. Dawn of understanding. Time seemed to slow as the Fortune's Gambit accelerated toward the precursor station. Zara's modified slipstream drive hummed with power, its quantum field harmonizing with the station's impossible geometry. Behind them, the Shadowed One's weapons filled space with deadly energy. Drive modifications complete, Kreldar announced, their scales shifting through patterns of nervous anticipation. But Zara, if our calculations are wrong, then we'll make spectacular history either way, she replied, her hands steady on the controls. Nova, initiate the sequence. The AI's voice was calm. Quantum field engaging. Station's resonance patterns are responding. Zara, good luck. The Fortune's Gambit slipstream field expanded, touching the crystalline surface of the precursor station. For a moment, nothing happened. Then reality itself seemed to hiccup. The station's geometric patterns began to shift, each impossible angle suddenly alive with swirling energy. The quantum chaos patterns that Zara had discovered weren't just mathematical curiosities, they were keys, waiting for someone innovative enough to use them. Fascinating, High Counselor Venare's voice carried genuine wonder despite the situation. The station, it's awakening. Stand down, Zara Harrison. Let those with proper understanding handle this power. That's just it, Zara replied, watching as the station's energy patterns began to mirror her modified slipstream field. True understanding doesn't come from control. It comes from curiosity, from being willing to embrace the unknown. The Shadowed One's ships opened fire, but their weapons dissipated harmlessly against the growing quantum field. The station was now fully active, its crystalline structure pulsing with colors that shouldn't exist in normal space. Quantum cascade reaching critical threshold, Nova reported. Station systems are interfacing with our drive modifications. Suddenly, a new presence filled the command channel. It wasn't a voice so much as a sensation of vast intelligence, of knowledge encoded into the fabric of reality itself. The precursor station's consciousness, dormant for millennia, had awakened. Images and concepts flooded through their minds. The precursors hadn't vanished or destroyed themselves as so many had theorized. They had evolved, transcended physical form by understanding that chaos and order were artificial distinctions. Their station wasn't a weapon, it was a guidebook, waiting for species mature enough to understand its lessons. All this time, Kreldar whispered, their scales showing patterns Zara had never seen before. We thought we were preserving order, protecting civilization. But we were only holding ourselves back. The Shadowed One's ships hung motionless in space as the station's revelation continued. Zara saw tears streaming down her cheeks, reflected in the viewport as the universe seemed to open up before them. The precursor's gift wasn't technology or weapons, it was understanding. The station's quantum field is stabilizing, Nova reported. It's teaching us. Showing us how to see beyond traditional physics. High Counselor Venare's voice had lost all its arrogance. We were wrong. The humans, their chaotic approach, their willingness to embrace uncertainty, it was exactly what was needed. The quantum field gradually receded, leaving the station gently pulsing with internal light. But something had fundamentally changed. The barriers between human and Solarian understanding had been broken down, replaced by a new perspective that incorporated both viewpoints. Well, Zara said, wiping her eyes with a slightly shaky hand. I'd say that beats any salvage haul I've ever made. Kreldar's scales had settled into a deep, peaceful blue. The precursors knew that true advancement couldn't come from one approach alone. The Solarians' drive for order, humanity's embrace of chaos, both were necessary. Both incomplete on their own. The Shadowed One's ships were powering down their weapons. On the command channel, High Counselor Venare spoke with new humility. Perhaps it is time for both our peoples to acknowledge that we have much to learn from each other. That's the thing about the universe, Zara said, smiling as she looked out at the now peaceful scene. It's big enough for every approach, every perspective. We just have to be brave enough to accept that our way isn't the only way. The Fortune's Gambit sensors were already recording new discoveries, insights into physics and reality that would keep scientists of both species busy for generations. But more important than the technical knowledge was the philosophical lesson, that progress came not from domination or control, but from cooperation and understanding. So, Zara said, turning to Kreldar. Ready to help me explain to both our governments why a salvage specialist and a scout commander just rewrote the laws of physics? The Solarian scales rippled with amusement. I suspect that will be the easiest part. The real challenge will be learning to move forward together, to combine our strengths instead of fearing our differences. As they prepared to transmit their discoveries to both Earth and the Solarian homeworld, Zara reflected that this was probably not how anyone had expected first contact to go. But maybe that was the point. The universe didn't care about expectations or carefully laid plans. It cared about those willing to take chances, to reach across boundaries, and to see possibility where others saw only chaos. Human ingenuity had unlocked the precursor station not because humans were superior, but because they were willing to admit they didn't have all the answers. And in that admission lay the greatest discovery of all, that the future belonged not to those who sought to control it, but to those brave enough to embrace its infinite possibilities together.